Welcome, sweet friends, to the channel Frugal Money Saver. My name is Emmy. My husband is Paul. We're so happy you have joined us today. Today's video, we are going to show you how to save some serious money, avoid food waste, prep food, get it ready for the freezer, and on we go. With the continued rising cost of food supplies at the grocery store, we need to be more diligent now than ever. We need to use up what we buy. We can't let food waste in our refrigerator. We need to preserve food if we're not going to use it right away. And we're going to show you a bunch of ways, real life ways that Paul and I handle our food once it comes in the house. And this is to stretch the longevity of the food so it doesn't rot. Really good ways to freeze and preserve your food. Why are we encouraging you to do this? I'm going to give you 4 really solid reasons. First and foremost, to save money. You don't want to bring food into the house and end up tossing it. It is just bad common financial sense. Every food product you throw in the garbage is basically money down the drain. We want to combat that and really use up what we have or preserve it. Number 2, zero food waste. Wasting food is just not good. When we go through our fridge or freezer and I find something that is bad, and we never encourage you to eat spoiled food ever. By our neglect and not taking care of our food properly, which you have to think of it that way sometimes, we've not only wasted food, but we've also lost money. Number 3, convenience. We're going to show you ways to just make your mealtime so much easier by having food prepared, by being able to go to your freezer, pull out what you need, and use it right away. Streamlining your cooking and your food prep. And number 4, organization. There's nothing more that keeps a kitchen running smoothly and efficiently than organization. Knowing what you have, knowing how to use what you have, preparing what you have, being organized will save you so much money. So as we go forward with these, what we hope are super helpful hands-on tips to save you money and not waste food, keep these 4 motivating factors in the back of your mind. So let's turn this camera around and get into the kitchen. I have got to get prepping some food that is in our refrigerator. We went food shopping. I'm going to share some prices with you, but I need to deal with this food immediately because there are things that are going to spoil or that we're not going to use in time. So let's get right to work, clean out our refrigerator, and prep some food. The first thing I'm going to start with is making some bone broth. I have an entire bag of wingtips and chicken bones. So we are going to get this going in the crock pot because I only have 1 cup of homemade stock left in my freezer. So the first thing I'm going to do is make the stock because while I'm doing the rest of the prep work, this can cook all day. This is going to make an amazing stock. And it also just freed up a huge space in my freezer by removing this bag of frozen chicken bones. To those bones, I have a lot of leftover onion I'm adding. Some of it we chopped for a recipe and I wasn't able to use it all. It was way too much. I've got some pretty wilty celery here. We're just going to cut that up and add that to the pot. I've got 1 giant carrot that I'm adding. This is going to add so much flavor. I've got a giant clove of garlic that I added. I'm also going to add a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And no, you're not going to taste that, but that's going to break down the collagen in the bones. I'm adding some peppercorns ground up, and you can add whatever kind of seasoning you like in your broth. And then I'm adding just a little bit of salt, not too much, but again, you do it to taste, whatever you prefer. I covered everything with water And now I'm just giving it a little bit of a mix. And as it cooks, the bones will break down, which is great. Now I'm just going to cover this, put it on high, and this is just going to cook literally all day. Always make sure, if you didn't put a lot of water in, to keep an eye to make sure your water's not cooking down. I have it almost filled to the top, so this is going to be good to go while I continue on with the rest of my prepping. Here's the broth that we made yesterday. We strained it, took out the bones and the vegetables, and then we put it right in the refrigerator for overnight. And as you can see, there is a layer of fat on top, and I'll remove some of it. Look at how gelatinous this is. Now that is a good thing. That means it's got lots of collagen in it. Look at this. This is how you want your broth to come out. And then you see all these wonderful plastic containers that I have reused over and over through the years. I'm going to fill them, some with 1 cup portions, some with 2, and then we will put them in the freezer. And I will have fresh homemade stock whenever I need it. So I'm going to get to work and start filling all these and getting them into the freezer. So we ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 1-cup containers and a container with 2 cups. So I got 9 cups of beautiful homemade chicken stock out of just bones that we would have thrown away, literally. I'm going to date these and put them right in the freezer. And I'm also adding all these items to my inventory as I go. The next prepping we're going to do is for our red peppers. These were on sale $1.49 a pound at ShopRite. So I grabbed 4 large ones. And what I want to do is put them in the freezer for 4th of July for sausage and pepper wedges. Peppers can go as high as $3 a pound. So I figured, let me get them now while they're $1.49. Now, all I'm going to do is cut them into strips, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to freeze them. Remember, we don't waste anything, so just pull the seeds out, and then we can chop this as well. And I'm just cutting them into thin strips, just like this. So I'm going to do that with all 4 peppers. The peppers are all sliced, and I have a beautiful mound of red peppers here. What I'm going to do now is lay them out, and we're going to freeze them on trays. Let me show you. I do prefer to freeze mine on a piece of wax paper. It just keeps them from sticking. When you put them directly on the pan, sometimes they can stick. So this just works great. What I'm doing is laying them out individually so that as these freeze, they're going to freeze in individual pieces. And then when we go to food saver them in the bag, they're going to come out as individual pieces because they will already be frozen. So I'm just going to finish up this, put them on the tray, and get this into the freezer, and then we'll show you what we're going to do with them. Paul usually preps a small green salad that will last several days. I have all the tops of the peppers here, and yes, I could have frozen them, but what I'm going to do is just chop them up and add them right to this salad, and we eat off of this for a couple of days. Nothing more delicious than fresh red peppers on top of a tossed green salad. By doing this, this salad is ready to be pulled out of the refrigerator, and this will last us as a side salad for about 2 or 3 nights between the 2 of us. So when it is prepped like this, it is so easy for me to just pull this out, make some homemade dressing, serve it with our meal, and we have another healthy, delicious side done. Here are our peppers that we cut up, individually frozen. This is the best way to freeze any kind of fruit or vegetable. Individually freeze them first, then you put them either in your Ziploc bag, taking all the air out, or use your food saver and do it that way. Paul's going to do the food saver method for all these peppers now.
So now when I need peppers, all I do is take a scissor, carefully cut along the seal line, remove what I need, put it back into the food saver, and reseal it. So we'll do this every time until they're all used up. It's the best way to keep vegetables fresh.
So far, we have gotten our soup stock going in the crock pot. We've frozen our peppers. The salad is prepared for the week, and we've added the extra peppers to the top of it. So we are moving along at a great rate. As I'm doing this, I am wiping out my refrigerator shelves. I'm just cleaning the refrigerator. Keeping a clean and fresh refrigerator and freezer is just such a great feeling. There's nothing better than opening your refrigerator, seeing everything organized and clean, and fresh food ready for you to eat. So let's get back into the kitchen and keep on prepping. Next thing we're going to tackle from the refrigerator are some leftover pieces of bread. We have a crust of a bread from South Carolina we brought back, a couple of hamburger rolls. They're not bad, they're just a little dried out. And I also have a little end of our sourdough white bread. What I'm going to do with this piece is either later today or tomorrow is make bread pudding with raisins. So I'm just going to cube this bread. We're just going to make some quick croutons for our salad on top of the stove. We're not even going to use the oven because it is summertime. And the least we use our oven, the better. In this pot, I just melted about a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of olive oil, and I'm just going to drizzle it over these bread cubes. I do a little bit at a time. Then I take some everything but the bagel seasoning, give a little sprinkle, give it a little toss, add the rest. And of course, you can use all butter, you can use all olive oil, whatever works. And then I just give a little more of a sprinkle. And then we're just going to lightly toast these in a frying pan until they are crisp. That's all there is to it. We have avoided throwing out bread, and we have created another tasty accompaniment for salads, for soup. So now I'm just going to toss them over a low heat in a frying pan until they are crisp. Here's our croutons. I'm just gently sauteing them. And however brown you like them, however crispy, that is when you stop. Just make sure you keep turning though, because they will burn if you just leave them on one side. Set them aside to cool. Store them in a covered container in your refrigerator. Two other items that were on a really good sale this week were strawberries. They were $2.50 a container. And at Acme, blueberries were $1.50 a dry pint. What do we need to do? We need to preserve these. I don't want to freeze them because I want to be using them fresh this week. First thing I did when I got home with the strawberries is put them in a glass mason jar and put them right into the refrigerator. They stay beautifully. They don't rot as quick as keeping them in their own container, and they're ready to use at a moment's notice. I did this last summer and it worked amazing. I'm now going to take all the blueberries and I am going to put them in this mason jar as well. I've got my handy dandy wide mouth funnel. No home should be without a wide mouth funnel. It is one of the best kitchen tools. Now this is the debate. To wash before you put them in or not to wash. I'm going to let you all do your own research on this. I am not washing them. I am going to go through and make sure none of them are rotten or spoiled, but I am not going to wash them. I'm going to put them in like this, and when I want to eat them, I will take out what I need and wash them then. But you make your own decision. These were actually very beautiful blueberries. So now I'm just pouring them in. Now I've got a big old mason jar filled with these berries. I'm putting the lid on. They're going to go into the refrigerator along with these other two jars. Now they are ready to go when I need them. This is definitely going to keep them fresher than if I just shoved them in the refrigerator in their containers. Again, this is what it's all about. A few minutes of prep. Major savings in your pocket because you're not throwing away spoiled food. Well, we saved the bread from going to the birds or going into the garbage. We have some beautiful croutons now. And like I stated, that sourdough sandwich bread was just a little dried out and a little bit old. So I am going to make bread pudding with that. We love bread pudding. I'll add some cinnamon and raisins, and what a great weeknight dessert. And also what I could do with that, I could also make some breadcrumbs. Just put them in the food processor, grind them up, and we will have fresh breadcrumbs for the week as well. But I think we're going to go with the bread pudding. And the berries, this is a tried and true way that we have preserved our berries for much longer than just taking them and storing them in the refrigerator in their original containers. Also, because I don't wash them before I put them in the containers, we do wash them before we cut them up and eat them. Back into the kitchen we go. Another amazing deal this past week at ShopRite was the Cabot Vermont aged white cheddar cheese. It's normally $5.99 a pound. It was on sale for $2.99 a pound. So we bought just about 3.5 pounds. We want to shred it and we're going to freeze it. Those of you who have been following us for a while know I have been thinking about getting a food processor. The more I researched them, it was something I thought I could really utilize in the kitchen. But I waited and waited. This Cuisinart model from the Cuisinart website, over $100 regularly, was on sale for $35 and free shipping. So for our anniversary, Paul gave me this beautiful food processor, and we're going to use it today to shred some cheese and freeze it. Well, needless to say, that made quick work of shredding that cheese. But of course, you can shred it by hand as well. So we're going to freeze the cheese two ways. One is in blocks that we did with the food saver, and then the shredded cheese we just patted down like this, because if we food saver it, it's going to be in a big mush ball that we're not going to be able to separate. So this way we lay it flat, we'll break off what we need, took all the air out. This will go in the freezer as well, but this is just a regular Ziploc freezer bag. Now we still have a bunch more chunks we're going to freeze. We do date everything we're putting in our freezer. This is another way that you can preserve cheese, buy it on sale, and freeze it. Now let's head out into the garden because we need to preserve some of our basil we are growing. I'm going to show you where you want to cut your basil to trim it. Right between the two little leaves below where you're cutting, almost at the joint of the plant. And the reason we do this is because you do not want your basil to flower. Once basil goes to flower, it takes on a bit of a bitter taste, and you don't want that. Find where the two little leaves meet on the bottom. Give it a clip with clean kitchen scissors, and that is just a perfect way to harvest your basil. Here we have our beautiful basil. Best way I have found to freeze basil is to freeze it in a little bit of olive oil, and I will show you how to do that. So I washed the basil, and now you just want to gently pat it dry. The oil from the basil leaf is very precious, and you just want to treat the basil gently. Just pat it dry. Now what I do is I just take a bunch of basil leaves and I stack them together and I roll them very gently. Then I take my knife into little pieces I slice. So now you have little strips of basil. Take a clean ice cube tray, and yes, this does happen to be Mickey head ice cube trays, and I just put a little bit in each one. It stays so green and fresh once you put it in the freezer with the olive oil. And this is a good dark extra virgin olive oil. And I put it in a smaller container just so it's a little easier for me to pour. I'm going to continue on with this and then we'll pop it in the freezer. Here's the olive oil and basil. Once it's frozen, you can see how green that basil stayed. Now all I have to do is turn over. I just give it a little pop underneath and they pull right out. And then you have these amazing little basil bombs. And then what I do is I just take a small Ziploc bag and I place them in just like this. And because we froze them individually, we'll be able to take out only what we need when we need them. You can use them in your spaghetti sauce to saute vegetables, whatever you would use basil and olive oil for. So I'm going to remove the rest of these, pop this bag in the freezer, and I'm going to date it for this summer. And I'm going to just keep adding to it as I clip and trim our basil. What a great deal on that cheese. We are set for a while. We have it in the freezer. The shredded cheese is going to be great because I can just take a handful of that and throw it in an omelet if we need to, on top of a soup or a stew. The possibilities are endless. It is shredded by us. I hear so often that the additives they add to those pre-shredded cheeses is not good. So by shredding our own, we have avoided that. Now it's done, it's ready to go, and it makes meal planning and prepping so much easier. And as far as preserving the basil, we have consistently done the olive oil and basil trick for a couple of years now, and hands down, it works better than any way we have frozen basil before. So we hope this video was encouraging. We wanted to motivate you. We want you to get up, look in that refrigerator, see what you need to use up. Make a designated shelf for leftovers. Anytime you have leftovers, pull them to the front of your refrigerator so you use them first and foremost. If you have like sour cream or cottage cheese that's coming close to date, pull it up front so it doesn't get lost in the back of your refrigerator and you end up tossing it. By doing this, you will save so much money. You will have good, nutritious food that you have bought at the lowest prices possible and preserve them. So you're not having to run out and pay full price for cheese or for fresh basil from the supermarket, cartons and cans of chicken stock. No, you've done it. You've got it prepped. So Paul and I encourage you to make the most of what you have in the way of food. Today's question of the day: what is the number one food you always prep and have on hand for quick meals? And also, how do you prep it? Do you freeze it? Do you can it? Do you dry it? What works best for you? Please share it with us because it not only encourages us, it encourages our viewers as well. And we thank you for that. So we hope you enjoyed this video. We thank you so much for spending this time with us. Please, we ask you, give this a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. We ask you to be well. We ask you to be safe. And above all, we wish you blessings. Until our next video, may God greatly bless you.